recording, and then we're going to get started. Okay. So, guys, let's start by just asking you guys how you're doing with the assignment. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that we need to clarify or discuss before we move on? I just need to open up my door for a bit of wind.
I've done,
Yes, dear.
no, I've done the research part yet, so I just got the PowerPoint ready, but my new laptop is ready, so yeah, I just need to start with that, but I'm okay.
Are you okay with that? Okay, cool. Cool. Kate, Tennille, are you guys fine? Okay, perfect. Yes, Tennille.
I just wanted to say I'm all right. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, the reactions are there on the little face, if that helps. Or a thumbs up. But cool. Okay, guys, let's get things started with the next topic. We are going to go into a bit of critical thinking, and there's a few reasons why this is important. One of the main reasons is this year is going to focus a little bit on the philosophical question of who am I, and I get those. I discover that by answering the questions: where do I come from? Where am I going? What is right and wrong? And where do I come from? Why am I here? And all of this forms an intersection. Remember that diagram I showed you that help you understand who I am. And I think so far, hoping that this first assignment is answering the question, where do I come from? Just the extraordinary events that has led to who you are. And that is a unique, very, 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 very improbable event that you exist at all, which I really hope helps you to find some value in the fact that you just exist, because you come from somewhere, and that all those things conspired so that you end up being you, and that must mean something for someone. Okay, now to answer the rest of the questions, we need to be able to reason and to think logically. And for example, how do I know something is true? How do I know something is good? All of those things require me to be able to actually reason and evaluate and think things clear, thoughtfully. And so critical thinking is just a phenomenally useful skill that very, 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 very few people have. Most people um, simply believe things because they are told. You simply, you are told something and therefore you believe it. And or you see it on the internet, or you read it in a book, or whatever. But they don't really employ critical thinking, reasoning. And what we mean by critical is just, you don't just accept it. You consider what is being said and try and evaluate whether or not it's true. But in order to be able to do that, you need to be able to think and reason. And now that is most importantly what schools should be teaching kids. But the problem is, in general, school is just forcing information into your head. In a few years ago, I don't know how much you guys have been exposed to it, but I was challenged by a growing community online that believed that the earth is flat. And one of the things, so it really intrigued me. Why do I believe, why do I think, how do I know that the earth is actually round? The only reason I could think of why the earth was round was because I was told that my whole life. And I opened myself up to this idea, like, what if the earth is flat? Like, what, like, how do I know other than what I was told? Now, I had to go and make up my own mind and think and reason and try and understand, why do I think the earth is round? Now, you can tell me, okay, but let me ask you, what do you guys think? Is the earth flat or round? And then give me a reason why you think what you think. And I'm going to kind of challenge why you think that.
Honestly, I just don't really care. I guess I just naturally go around because people tell me to, but I wouldn't mind if it's actually flat. I don't know.
Tell me, okay, let me challenge that. If it is round, sorry, if it is flat, but everyone is telling you that it's round, wouldn't it bother you that everyone is telling you it's round when it's actually flat?
No,
Doesn't that, it doesn't bother you?
no, I don't
No.
really care. As
You
long
don't.
as everything's fine and everyone's alive and have to live, I'm good.
You're good to live in a world where it is what it is, even
Yes.
if others try to tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. Okay, how about Kate? You sounded like you wanted to say something. Yes.
Well, I think it's round because I would say a lot of research said it's round. So that's only why I say it's round. And that's also what I've been told. Nobody has told me it's flat. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Guys, like I'm not a stupid person, but I was really challenged other than research. So for example, the most of the they're called flat earthers, they challenge what research shows. They don't believe any pictures of Earth, because anything, like even if you see a picture of Earth, if you see a picture of Earth, it is edited. It's definitely computer graphics edited. And there's even a YouTube video where one of the guys that make these pictures of Earth explain why they edit it, like why they Photoshop it, in order to give it the look that it has. That's not really what it looks like. They have to Photoshop it so that it gives that impression. So it's extremely difficult, simply based on our own experience, to have a perspective of whether or not the earth is round or flat. And so there's a lot of experiments the flat earthers do that they kind of prove, but the earth has to be flat. And so you can go and Google that if you want to. But the idea is not for us necessarily to go and disbelieve everything, but to make sure that the things that we believe are sound, like we've thought about it, and someone doesn't come one day and all of a sudden just throw a spanner in the works, and you're not able how to thoroughly think through what you know and what you believe. Okay, and so that is the idea. So what we're going to start with, first, I don't want to introduce the topic yet. I want to get a little bit of we're too few to really start a proper debate, but maybe we can get some agreement or disagreement between the four of us on whether or not humans have free will. Okay, so I'm just going to put that out there, and I'm going to ask that question. Now, you can answer or ask clarifying questions, like what do I mean, or whatever, if you don't understand. But here's my question. Do you think humans have free will? I am so hot in here. I need to make a plan for some. Sorry, my picture is not going to be great with the things open. Tennille, what do you say? Or do you have a question?
I think we don't really have a. It doesn't seem like we have a will. If I can explain it better, I could, but I can't really.
Okay, you don't really think humans have a will, or you don't think they have a free will?
Yes,
So which one? You don't think we have
the second one. I
you
don't think we have a free will.
Okay, you don't think we have free will. Okay, so we have one opinion so far.
For me, it's that Like in what sense? Because I think humans, we have like, if we're exposed to it, we can have our own ideas and own feelings to things, but there are limitations in the world, so we can't really have free will because there's so many limitations spiritually, physically, and mentally. So I also have to agree, we don't really have free will.
Okay, I like where you're going with this, Daniela. Danielle, you're saying that you think to some extent we can make choices. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, but there are limitations, so it's
Yeah.
not really free in the larger scope of things. Okay, that's noted. Kate, do you have an opinion?
Yes, I would also agree with Danielle. I would say I personally don't think we've got a free will, because you do have an opinion, but I won't say you've got a free will.
Okay, good. Now, so far, I think all of us actually agree. So this is not very helpful for promoting the discussion, because generally, I think most people would think that we do have free will. So let me try and play. I don't want to say devil's advocate as if I'm playing the devil's side, but let me try argue the opposite position. So I believe we have free will because I can choose what I want to do, and I can, what I believe and what I think is determined by me. No one influences what or no one controls what I think and what I believe. And if we didn't have free will, we wouldn't be able to keep people accountable. So, for example, if someone is a thief, or he's a murderer, then I wouldn't be able to prosecute that person because they couldn't help themselves. They weren't free in making the decisions. They were forced. They were couldn't help themselves. So what do you guys? That's why I do believe people have free will and we should believe people have free will.
I disagree because yes, people have choices, and to some extent, as I said, you do have the free will to choose what's of the decision. You can choose either A or B, but that has limitations in it as well. Since the thief had the choice not to steal or to steal, but that's it. There is no like I can steal, but I don't steal, or I can don't steal, but I have the thing that I wanted to steal. You see, so there are limitations. So it's not really free will. You can't call it free will. Something like that.
Neil or Kate, what do you think?
I would maybe agree what you said, but yeah, it makes sense that you've got a free will, but then then I also don't think you do. Yeah, actually.
Hmm.
I do disagree, but I don't really have an answer for it. Like an argument.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me, before we continue, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you like to debate or disagree or get into arguments with people, or do you usually just like to keep the peace and you'd rather not provoke arguments, or what do you guys like just in your personality?
With my personality, I like to debate with people that are willing to debate, with people that won't like get angry easily or just you
Mm.
know they stay logical. There's like rules in the debate. We don't break them. Those, but other than that, I'm surrounded by very emotional people. So in that case, I always stay with the peace. But
Yeah.
if I'm with someone that's logical, I would love a debate.
Yeah, listen, that's very interesting, there. That what you said is it's so difficult to debate with people that are emotional, ne? Because and why is that the case for you, Daniela?
Well, personally, the experiences I have with like emotional people is that when you bring out a logical fact, it's a fact, it's the truth, right? They they somehow you need to convince the person that it's fact because just because they don't like it, and it's just you can't prove it's the truth. You have to accept it. But with
Mm.
emotional people, they because just because the truth like hurts their feelings or something, they always like fight. So you can't really have a debate because you're busy trying to prove just a fact. And that gets very frustrating very quickly, at least for me.
Okay, that's good. How about you, Tennille? What are you more like? Do you like disagreeing with people?
I prefer to keep the peace, although debating would be a wiser choice at times. But it depends on the person.
Yeah. But you're not someone that would like tend to if you're in, let's say, a conversation and you don't necessarily agree, you won't necessarily bring that out if
No, I won't.
you'd rather just avoid it.
I would rather avoid it if I can, but if I am allowed to say is give my own opinion, I would.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you wouldn't hold back your opinion if it was different from other people, but you would
I would be careful with the person.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, how about you, Kate?
I would rather keep the peace.
Oh,
Like everybody said, it does depend on the person, but I don't like to start a fight. So even if I've got an opinion, if it's somebody I know really well, I would probably tell them, well, this is my opinion, but I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I don't agree to what you're saying. But I won't really tell somebody that I disagree. So I'd rather keep the peace.
I see. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I'm definitely like I wouldn't say stoker, but I enjoy debating, and I think I can present my positions well because I try to have them thought through. As I think I relate a little bit more to Danielle, and yeah, and in the same way, like if it's difficult if someone is I don't want to say emotional, but that's it's not about something that's personal. For me, it's about what is true, and I want to know and believe and understand things that are true. So if someone says something that I don't think is true, if they're open for a discussion, then I love those. We had a wonderful one on the weekend, just with some people in a group, and it becomes heated, but it's not fighting. It's just passionately sharing opinions. I love that. And I think some people would find it very uncomfortable, even just to be in a setting like that, because it feels um, like it feels like fighting, but it's not. It's really just passionately bringing up, and it's very insightful to actually listen to debates and to hear people discuss it. I wanted to. There's actually a video about his name is Ben Shapiro. I wonder if I can find it. I keep on looking for it. But in this video, there's a guy named Ben Shapiro where he's in like they talking. There's a lady there that, well, not a lady, is a man that believes himself to be a lady, and And Ben Shapiro, it doesn't care what he or she, I don't know what's it called, feels. He's just giving opinions. And at one point, everyone else feels uncomfortable because he's not respecting this person. He keeps using the pronouns he, and the person wants them to use the pronoun she, and he just makes the point at some point. But facts don't care about your feelings, because the rest of the people feel something for the other person, and they feel he's being disrespectful. And he made this point that facts don't care about your feelings. That's very difficult to be in any form of disagreement where feelings come into play. And so one of the key things to do is to bring people to facts, but almost to try and do this in an unemotional way. And I don't mean an unkind way, but in a way that that helps people to not be offended when we're just having a reasonable argument. It doesn't have to be offensive. It doesn't have to be a fight. It really is an excellent opportunity when you engage with someone and they have a different opinion from you. That is the most here's the point. Who of you like you don't mind being wrong? Like, give me a hands up if you, or a thumbs up if you actually don't like being wrong. Like, give me a thumbs up if you don't like being wrong. So you guys are fine with being wrong?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
You're fine with being wrong. Okay. Kate, you don't mind if you're wrong? Like, someone can actually, you can easily be corrected. Okay, that's awesome. You guys are amazing if that's the case. And most people hate being wrong. Like, you don't, and that's why it's emotional when someone disagrees with you, because you don't want to be wrong. But this is something that my wife actually taught me, that it is good to learn that you're wrong, because if you're a reasonable person, if you're someone that thinks through things, if someone can prove that you're wrong, it means that they have something, they're convincing you of truth. Listen, the corner of this office makes it look like I'm growing antennas out of my head. It's distracting me. Okay. So let me just minimize my video, then it helps already. Okay, so it really is very helpful to actually know. So it's a wonderful opportunity when you engage someone that actually differs with you on something, to engage them and try and understand why they think the way that they do. Like, obviously someone has an opinion and they've gotten to that opinion somehow. Now, if the person got to their opinion simply because, and here's the unfortunate fact, most people believe things or know things simply because they were told, and they will defend their first opinion, even if they have no good reasons to believe it. So if, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if you, yeah, okay, let me not get too distracted. But most people will defend their first opinion, even if they didn't know why it is true. They will want to believe it. And people don't want to know that they were, in general, that they were wrong. So when you encounter someone, if someone has actually thought through why something is true, if they've actually looked at evidence or thought it through a little bit, you have an opportunity to actually be enriched by the way they thought, and trying to understand, why do you and I differ? Like, if you're a reasonable person and I'm a reasonable person, then one of us are either wrong, or both of us are wrong, or somehow in some mysterious way we're both right. How can that be true? Okay, so I want to show you guys something, and today we're going to look at the first steps to take when you disagree with someone. Like, for example, today we're talking about free will, and I was actually delighted by some of your responses, because it really shows insight. But what would be the approach if you say something, someone says no, and I challenge you, go and and ask your friends and have a discussion with your friends whether or not they think people have free will. Try and understand their position. But let me show you something. I hope I'm going to be able to do this with my mouse because I didn't print the cable. Okay. So when I was in my 3rd year, I had a subject called geometry. So I studied pure mathematics, and I had a subject called geometry. Now, geometry at school is about circles and triangles and things like that. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You guys all have had maths in your life before. So let me quickly ask you a question about triangles. Okay. What do I get when I add up all the inside angles of a triangle? What answer do I get?
I think it
300.
was, wasn't it 180?
180 degrees? Is that what Danielle says? Do you guys agree, Kate? And
Yes.
okay, you guys agree. Okay. So that is true, but let me draw a triangle for you that doesn't have 180 degrees. So if you stand on the surface of the earth, okay, so here's the earth. Try to draw an earth, and you were standing on so let's say this is the North Pole, okay, and here's the equator coming around. Can you all see roughly my earth? Okay, so here's the equator, the middle of the equator. Now, if you stood at the North Pole and you went down, 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 and you crossed and you met with the equator, what angle would you make with the equator? If you went straight down to the equator, what angle will it make?
I want to say 90,
Oh.
but
It's 90 degrees because you're just, I'm just looking at this kind of from a 3D perspective. If this was simply a circle, let's see if I can just draw it. If we were just looking at it from the side, the equator would have been here in the middle. I would have been here at the top. I'm just walking straight down. That's a 90-degree angle. Do you agree? I'm just now looking at it kind of from space, assuming, of course, the Earth is not flat. Okay. Now, that's a 90-degree angle, okay? That's one line. Now, let's go back to where we started. So we're back on top here. And then when I'm on top there, can you guys still see my video? Me.
yes.
Okay, so let me just do this. So that I can also see my video. Okay, so let's now say I'm at the North Pole. I went down. Now I'm back at the North Pole, and now I make a 90-degree turn. So that when I'm here, I go down again to the equator. But this angle here is 90 degrees. Okay? And then what angle will I make here?
Also 90 degrees.
Also 90 degrees? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. This is a triangle, isn't it? I drew straight lines. Straight line there, straight line there, straight line there. Okay. It just looks round because I'm drawing onto the surface of the earth. But what does it add up to?
200.
Yeah.
I thought the inside angles of a triangle was always 180. Here's an example where it's 270. Can you guys explain the reason why it's not 180 degrees?
Wouldn't it be that the second line that's going to the side, like I don't think that's straight. I'm not sure.
They're all perfectly straight lines.
Is
In
it?
other words, if you were drawing this triangle with a paintbrush, you would literally be painting a straight line all the way, every time. Now, it's not straight in the sense that in three-dimensional space, it's curving a little bit around the Earth, but you're still drawing a straight line. As a matter of fact, if I just made this thing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger on the surface of the Earth, it could probably be that triangle there.
Wouldn't it be because the Earth is a bit rounded that would have an impact?
It would, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. In other words, the inside angle of a triangle is 180 degrees if what?
If it's on a flat surface?
So in other words, if I had a conversation with someone and this person is like, I don't know, 10 times the size of Earth, and I was trying to have a communication with that person, and I say inside angles of a triangle is 180 degrees, and he says, no, it's bigger than 180 degrees. It's 270 or whatever the person, the being says. I could argue with that person, like by giving examples, like, but look here and look there. But the one thing I need to recognize is that the reason why it's 180 degrees is because I made an assumption. I made an assumption that I'm working on a flat surface. Okay. Now, the moment I can argue with someone and we have two different opinions, and we realize, oh, but you're working on a flat surface and you are working on a more spherical, a round surface, then obviously our triangles, even though both are triangles, they're straight lines on a surface, we are having different surfaces. And so this is the key in order to understand why people get to different conclusions, is they made an assumption. There is something that is important that came before that thing. So let me tell you a little story of a man named Euclid. So Euclid, you guys know all Euclidean geometry. Who of you have maths?
I do,
Danny?
sadly.
Sadly. What? It's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Okay. How about you, Kate? Do you have maths or math lit?
That's it.
Okay, maths lit.
Math lit as
Maths lit.
well.
So don't worry, you won't be disadvantaged. Okay. It's just in maths, we do Euclidean geometry. Now, Euclidean geometry comes from this guy named Euclid. And Euclid was a mathematician. Euclid wanted to, they had all these mathematical things like the inside of a triangle adds up to, for them, it wasn't 180 degrees. They didn't use degrees back then. They 180 degrees means it makes a straight line. So if you take all the angles of a triangle and you put them together, it makes a straight line. And so they call that supplementary. They said the inside angle of a triangle is supplementary. They used Pythagoras. I'm sure you guys all know Pythagoras, that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the adjacent and the opposite sides squared. So they had all these formulas and theorems, but they didn't know why they were true. They just knew they were. They could give examples. And so Euclid said, okay, no, this is unacceptable. He's a mathematician. He wants to prove everything. He wants to know why they are true. So he said, okay, I'm not going to assume anything. I'm going to have nothing. I'm going to start from scratch. Now, what do you think his first problem was if he says, I'm not going to have anything? What can you imagine your problem would be if you want to start with nothing?
You would assume it's a triangle which has three sides.
No,
Oh.
no, I don't just mean triangles. I mean, he wants to prove maths starting with nothing, not just, so triangles is just one thing. But let's say you wanted to prove the inside of angles of a triangle, but let's start with that. Okay, let's actually take your example and reduce it. So just say again, what would be one of the problems?
You would assume that a triangle has like three sides?
Okay, remember you're talking about triangles. He says he has nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably the flat surface, maybe.
Okay, Kate, what do you say?
I would say if he's got nothing, he's not going to prove anything because he's got nothing.
That's the excellent point. So the first point is you can't, if you don't have anything, you can't start because nothing comes out of nothing. Like that's almost like it's not even an assumption. It's just the raw, the most basic truth of everything is that if you have nothing, you have nothing. It's what nothing is, it's nothing. Okay, so he immediately encountered his first problem. He has to start with something. Okay, so he started with two things. He started with a point. He started with a point, and I'm not even going to make a point, but he had in mind a point and a line. Now, what is a point and what is a line? What do you guys say?
A point is a dot and a line is a straight thing. It's like a straight line.
Okay. Okay. What is a dot?
I would say just a little circle.
Okay. What is a circle? Remember, we have nothing.
A point is a location on whatever.
Okay. So the problem that he had from the beginning was, oh, okay, I wrote that very small. Okay. The problem was from the beginning, you have nothing. So you can't start with what a point is or what a line is. You have to, like, you just had to say point and line, and that's it. Your understanding of what a point is and what a line is had to be intuitive. Okay, so he couldn't say a point is a dot or a point is, he did give it somewhat of a definition, but even that, it falls flat. He gives it a definition, but not that the definition has meaning. I'll explain that a little bit later. But point just the point just being, you can't say a line is a collection, because if I draw a line, then I've actually made point, a lot of points, isn't it? So you can't say a point is a collection of lines, because what is a collection? If you have nothing, you literally start just with these two things, and he called them undefined concepts. He's not defining them yet. He knows they exist because he lives in a world where there are points and lines, and he doesn't want to use anything to describe it, but he kind of broke everything down to these two simple concepts. And he said, okay, would you agree that, can we agree on something called points and something called lines? We're not going to define it, but let's just start with something. But then even from there, he couldn't start. Like he couldn't do anything because he just has two ideas. He didn't define them. He just has these two ideas. Now the question is, okay, but what about them? And he said, okay, let's make three assumptions. The first assumption he made was that, and I'm going to type it quicker than I can write. So let me see, can I type? Okay. A line, two line, no, wait, sorry. On each line, there is at least 1 point. That was his first. That was his first assumption, that if there is a line, now you and I know what a line is, but remember, he's kind of like building his own universe. And he says on each line, there's at least 1 point. So he's kind of giving rules for his universe. It's almost like the rules of, what is it called? Rules of nature. He says on each line, there's at least 1 point. And then the next one, two line, between 2 points, exists one unique line. Now, what that means is, let's say, remove that. Yeah. Let's say I have 2 points, then there can only be one line between those 2 points. So I can't, oh, come on. Can I move this? Oh God, sorry about that. I don't know how to do this. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so the next one is between 2 lines, and then the third point that he made is that when 2 lines intersect, when 2 lines cut each other, they cut in a unique point. In other words, 2 lines can't cut in. No, sorry, that was the first theorem. The third thing is there exists at least 3 points. So far, he's not said these points exist. He just says point, line. Then he says, okay, if there is a line, then there's a point on the line. If there are 2 points, then there can only be one line between those 2 points. And then he said, okay, there exists at least 3 points. Okay, these things are called his assumptions. He had to assume something to get his little universe to grow, this universe that eventually became Euclidean geometry. And with those 3 assumptions, he could prove a lot of theorems already. He could prove things like, when 2 lines intersect, that let me draw you that. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't want to draw. Do that. Okay, so for example, he could draw that if 2 lines intersect, then that angle there and this angle there are equal. He could prove that if you have 2 lines that cut each other, or if you have 2 lines that cut each other, that they can only cut in 1 point. They can't cut in 2 points, because if they cut in 2 points, then that would break one of his assumptions that said that between every 2 lines there's only a unique point. Between every 2 points there's a unique line. But my point is he's building up now all of these consequences. He made an assumption, but that assumption produced consequences. And as he went on, he eventually realized, but listen, I still can't prove the inside angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. And one of the assumptions he needed to make, and I don't know if you guys did this in grade 9, if you remember it from grade 9, but there's a theorem that says that if I have two parallel lines, and there is another line that cuts them. Can you guys remember the math theorem associated with these ones? Danielle, you being the math student, can you remember?
Yeah.
What are the theorems here?
I think it's opposite angles, vertical opposite angles equal.
So
I think,
alternate angles are equal. I think that's what you mean. So those 2 are equal. Yeah.
And then also vertical opposite. So
So this one that's here.
yeah.
This
So,
one here is equal. So that one is equal to that one.
and then alternative angles equal as well.
Those are equal. Okay, so the one you're forgetting is the one that says that these 2 angles, this angle here and this angle here, when you add them together, they are supplementary. Yeah, they add up to 180. Now, that is not actually a theorem. That was his assumption. The moment you make this assumption that these 2 angles add up to 180, it flattens the universe that you're working on. Okay, so if you didn't make that assumption, you would be working in a universe where that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So for example, on the surface of the earth, this is not true. If I draw a circle of the earth and I have two parallel lines, remember, parallel line is simply lines that don't intersect with each other. So for example, I can draw a circle around here, and I can draw a circle around here, So there it goes at the other side. And there it goes at the other side of the Earth. Okay, and if there's another line, let's make it a different color. If I had another line that cuts here, oh, sorry. Now all of a sudden, on this side, these two angles are two small angles. And so they won't add up to 180 because they're both less than 90. On this side, see it nicely, on this side and this side, these two are both more than 90 degrees, which means they will add up to more than 180 degrees. So in this case, it's not true. But anyway, so the moment you make this assumption, you are in a different universe or in a different world than that person is operating in. But it is because you made an assumption. And this is the key thing to be able to discuss anything with someone that you disagree with, is try and find, okay, what are the assumptions that you've made? What are the assumptions that I've made? So that if we can boil things down to the assumptions that you've had and the assumptions that I've had, now we can say, okay, well, is the assumption that you made, I don't want to say reasonable, but is it intuitive? Could we both agree that this assumption is correct and I should also make this assumption? Or could you, from your assumptions, prove that, okay, but your assumption is actually false? Because, and then we'll go into how you do that. But even before we got to assumptions, before we can actually test people's assumptions, we need to know and understand the words that they use. So let's talk a little bit about our initial discussion. So the first topic that we're going to do for this week is the idea of definitions. We need to start, whenever you're in conversation, whenever you're trying to understand anything, you need to understand definitions. What do people mean when they use certain words? So for example, at university, I was a lecturer for calculus, and calculus students that come from school, when they study engineering, they usually did very well at school in maths. Then they come to university and all of a sudden they start failing. So I had this one student that came to me, he was failing. He used to get 80s at school, and his first control test at varsity, he failed. And I helped him a little bit. He came for, I think, 1 or 2 lessons, and his next control test, he got 80s again. How did I manage to do that? All I did was I taught him how to read his own textbook. I didn't give him methods. I didn't teach him how to do the work. I just taught him how to understand the things in his book. Because the problem at school is they just show you do this and do that. If you do this, if you see this, then take this to the other side, what. And that is not sufficient. That's not what university is about. Little tips and tricks and methods. What is important is that you're able to think. And in order to think, the very first thing you will get in any book, anything that's worth thinking through, is definitions. And so a definition gives meaning to a word, so that if you and I talk about things, that we are talking about the same thing. That when you say triangle, I actually know that you mean a shape with 3 sides. Okay. That we are actually talking about the same thing. And when I say triangle, you're not maybe thinking of a rectangle or a diamond or whatever. Okay, does that make sense? Why definitions are so important. So let's go back to our initial question in the beginning. When I asked, do you believe in free will? Your response should have been, and I was so grateful that it did come out a little bit by what you guys said. You should have started by asking, what do you mean by free will? Let's first make sure that you and I, that we are actually talking about the same thing. So let's do that. Let's think a little bit about how would you guys define free will? And again, from my side, it really sounded like you guys actually understood the definition quite well, at least the way I would understand it. And that's why we didn't really disagree, because we agree on the definition. But let me just show you why it is that we agree on the definition. So quickly tell me, if we had to understand what someone else would understand under free will, what would we have to discuss? What would we have to define?
The fact that if you think of doing something, you can do it.
Okay, but let's just think of the word quickly. Like if we were talking about free will, what would we have to define if we talk about free will? Do you understand what? There's two things here that we will have to have clarity on. What are those two things?
The words free and will.
Yes, well done. Okay, so let's start with the word will. In the idea, the concept free will, how do you understand? Let's start with Danielle to give you a chance. Danielle, do you have an understanding, or how would you understand if I talk about your will? What do we mean when we say your will?
Am I able to do it? Can I do it? And will I eventually do it?
Okay. Do any of you, Danielle, you okay? Do you have a definition of will?
I would say will is something, okay, if something comes to mind of, let's say you want to do something, you can do it. So the first thing that comes to mind, you can do, that's a will.
Okay, so
My
let's try and get a definition that you can actually look up in the dictionary. So I'm trying to put down what you guys have said in words. So what do we mean by will? So what I'm hearing from you is, Kate, you say it's something you can do. Do you want to clarify that, or are you happy with that? It's something you can do.
Yes, something you want to do, something you can do.
Something you want to or can do. Want to or can do. Okay. Sorry, Danielle, what do you say?
well, I think it's a urge or a strong feeling that you have or feel on something, like on action, or yeah, something like that. There's like an urgency for an action.
An urgency for an action. Urgency for an action. Okay. So that's what you guys, so that's very important. So if you are going to talk to someone about free will, the three of you will thinking of three different things. When like one says it's something you can or want to do, another one says it's a strong feeling or an urgency for an action. Okay, so what do you guys suggest? What is a good thing to do if I wanted to know what the meaning is? Would it be meaningful to use my own meaning? What do you say, Danielle?
Go to the facts.
How do we do that?
Well, the dictionary.
Addiction. Okay, that's a good place to start. No. Okay, so let me share my screen. And then we go look up just in an online dictionary. And am I sharing my screen? Don't think so. No.
No.
Okay. Meaning of will. It's a dictionary meaning of will. Okay, let's try Oxford Dictionary. Oxford Dictionary. Oh, it's because I'm on videos here. Let's say, okay, will. The ability to control your thoughts and actions in order to achieve what you want to do. Okay, so what I like about this is this actually brings a little bit together what Danielle and Kate was saying, and probably what Tennille, what you were also saying. So here, a dictionary definition of your will is your ability to control your thoughts and actions in order to achieve what you want to do. A strong or determined desire to do something you want to do. That's almost what you said, isn't it? Danielle, you said an urgency or a strong feeling. There's a strong and determined desire to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I just missed the ability part.
Yeah, the ability to control, but I don't know if I agree with, let's just go there. I don't, let's see, to have a strong will. So I don't know if whether your will can actually control. So it's the ability to control your thoughts and actions in order to achieve what you want to do. So your will, my definition for will is your mind choosing. So my will is what I want. It's what I made up my mind to want. That's how I define will. So if we're talking about free will, okay, so here we have roughly an idea. So roughly an understanding, it is me controlling my thoughts. It is a strong, determined desire to do something that I want to do. It's about what I want and how I desire. It's strong. I like. I'm quite surprised that you got that wrong. Right. I didn't put strong in the definition myself, but you guys understand how that is helpful. So that we actually agree on what we mean by will. Okay. Now the next, what do we need to define next? So we've got will is the ability to control your thoughts
And free.
and free. Okay. So how would you define free?
You have no, you don't have any accountability for something, I guess.
Okay, maybe no accountability.
Consequences. I don't know.
No accountability or consequences. What do you say, Danielle? If something, just think of the word free in general. Just what does free mean in general to you?
You have the ability to do what is in front of you, all of it, instead of being restricted to one thing.
I like that. It's not restricted, nay. It's not restricted. You have the ability. That is an excellent general understanding. At least for me, that's how I understand free. Like I'm not restricted. If my hands are free, it means they can move around freely. Nay. Okay, that's good. Okay, what do you say? Kate, how would you understand free?
I would say free is you can do what you want to do. You nearly the same as what Tennille said. You're not restricted. You can, if you want to do like anything, doesn't matter what it is, you can do it because you are free. You're not trapped. You're not.
There's nothing that stops you. Excellent. Okay, so Danielle, do you agree with that definition?
Yes, I do agree.
Okay. So we don't even need to go to a dictionary if this was the discussion, because we are trying to understand what the other person means. So all four of us agree with what free. With will, we were not sure. We needed to go to an external source and say, okay, well, what is the definition that we can agree on, let's say in Oxford, or like you try, and between whoever is in conversation, you try and say, okay, well, let's get to a term where we actually agree. Yes, that's how I understand it. If we're not going to agree on a definition for the word will, we should stop the conversation from there onwards, because if we can't agree with what we mean by the word, then it's not meaningful to continue the discussion. one of the debates I love to listen to. There's a lot of debates online, debates about the existence of God, debates about evolution. Did it really occur the way that that science suggests? And one of the key things that people start, for example, in the evolution debate, is defining by what do we mean by evolution. Otherwise, we are arguing about two different things. Okay, so that is crucial. Now, let's say we have this idea that, okay, my will is my ability to control my thoughts. So that's the first thing. Now, my free will means that nothing, that I'm completely free. Nothing affects or hinders my ability to control my thoughts and my actions. I can do whatever I want. Now, based on that, what do you say, Danielle? Based on that understanding of free will, do you think we have free will?
No, we do not.
Okay, just keep that answer. You'll explain now. Kate, what do you think?
I would probably say also no.
Also no. So there's some things that
You
restrict. So
can't do.
we have a will, but somehow our will is restricted. It's not
Yeah.
absolutely free. Okay.
Yeah.
And you, Neil, what do you say?
I think it's both we don't have it and that we do, because it depends on what we are able to do and not. Everything is different.
Yeah. Okay, so with what Neil just said, Danielle, explain why you say we don't have free will.
Because there's always something that can like change your thoughts or hinder your control on your thoughts. There's always something.
Okay. So in other words, your will, even though you have a will, it's not perfectly free.
Yes.
Can you guys think of some things that might affect your will that maybe that you would say maybe and you guys already used excellent examples earlier. I wish I can take you back to some of the things you already said, but can you think of some things that make your will not to be free? Danielle?
For free, you would have no limitations. So that's what we agree. So if you have free will, which will is your ability to control your thoughts, then you're saying that you have no limitations on your ability to control your thoughts.
Yeah.
But the brain, I can already make an example. The brain has its own limitations.
Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for example, it seems to me like I'm free. I can either stand or I can sit. Okay. But I can't fly. Like my abilities are one of the things that limit my will. I can will it as much as I want to. I really wish I could fly, but I can't levitate. So I am immediately, one of the limitations on my will is my abilities. I can't will what I cannot do. I can will as much as I wanted to walk through this wall. I'm not free to walk through this wall. Okay, so that's a very good one. My abilities. What else? You actually also said it, Danielle, but it's part of what you said, Kate. But give you a chance. What do you say? What can limit my?
I would say, I wouldn't say worry about other people's opinions, but if you want to do something which is going to hurt everybody or everything around you, you can't do it because of other people and I will not say they will, but yeah, it's like you can't do, if you've got a will and you really want to do it, I mean, you can't do it if it's going to hurt other things or other people.
So I think what it sounds like to me is because there's people that would do it. They can do it. They will do it.
Yes.
You might not do it because you're restricted by something, some moral inability to actually hurt other people. So yeah, there's definitely. Let me give you, because I need to go. I've got a 10 past meeting. So let me give you the 3 things that I think stops us from having a free will. The first thing is my abilities. The second thing is my imagination, and that's kind of what Danielle said. Like, I can't. There's certain things like I don't even think of that as a solution. Like if I had I have at the options of what shoes I was going to wear this morning. It feels to me like I have a free choice of whatever shoes I could wear, but I never thought of wearing banana shoes. Like maybe there was a way that I could put on bananas for shoes this morning, but my imagination hinders me. And so anything where your imagination, that is one thing. If you can't think of it, like it's your ability to control your thoughts. If I can't think of it, I can control it. The next thing and the last thing is your desires. Your desires limit what your will can do, because you're actually a slave of your desires. No one chooses to do anything what they don't really in their heart desire. So here you can see it's your ability. It's a strong or determined desire. Your will is actually an expression of your desires. And so your will, what I want to do. So let's say you don't really want to write the tests coming up next week, but you will write it. Why? Even though you don't have a desire to write it, you will write it, because deeper down, you have a stronger desire to actually complete your high school. So even and some kids won't write it because their desire to play computer games is maybe more than their desire to actually get a matric certificate. You understand? Everything, your choices is dependent on your desire. Now, I didn't want to make a case for free will or not free will. What I wanted to demonstrate, which wasn't really that ideal because you guys already understood this fundamentally, is that if I disagree with someone, what is crucially important is that we come to common ground. If I want to understand something in a textbook or something being presented to me, I need to understand the words that people are using. If I don't understand the words they are using, there's no way I can know what they're talking about and we can come to agree. Okay, so your first effort in understanding is understanding definitions, getting meaningful words, and making sure that the words that I use in conversation with other people or in the things that I do at school when I'm writing an essay or presenting an answer, the words that I use have meaning, and that the person that is reading it or hearing it understands what I mean when I use those words. So whenever I use a word that is maybe people wouldn't know what I mean, make an effort to say, this is what I mean by this word. Okay, so I need to cut it short here. There is a note on the portal for you under the dynamic program. I don't think I've got it on the grade 11 part yet. Please do for me. I think there's 5 lessons that go really theoretically fairly deep into definitions and how to create definitions, how to use definitions, but I'll send a little bit of an explanation a little bit later on today. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
guys. Sorry for the rush
Thank
here.
you.
It's okay.
Have a good day and a good week. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.